just looking at it from the curvature right here, right, just parametric curves, you were going x equals the square root of t earlier, and y equals the square, or 1 minus this t in general. But now, because of areas, I got to find the half over this, right? I got to find that black hole curvature of this thing being this, and I have to pass through it here, because if I pass through the black hole here, and this thing's all a big ass event horizon on what it is, if I do it here, I'd be 0 and I'd fall into the event horizon and I'd be a mathematician, right? By area. Like mathematically, you fuck.
And one we discover. But freedom
Well,
means you
it
don't need
is.
to choose. You get both.
When we're
Introducing
doing the
wildly
area
civilized,
and the
all-new
curves
three-row
of
Jeep Grand
timelines,
Cherokee L.
they're both general fields and two SAMs. I put those two SAMs together, and not only do they give me its own index, but it also gives me Maybelline here to pretty this pig up, or Beyond Natural.
Okay,
And then I'm a cosmetologist, and I have a beauty salon, which is a crucible.
Straightforward one, I think. So again, imagine
The
that,
integration of
X is
alpha
defined
and beta
as a
is
function
gravity.
of T, f of
It's
T,
like, well, what do you
y
mean?
is
It's
also a
like
function
between
of
negative or
T.
E0 and
So
E1
again,
is
they make
neutrons,
curves.
durium,
Those are little
tritium.
curves. See,
Now,
here's the
if
blue
I
one.
didn't need
Suppose
durium
the
because there's
leftmost
a neutron to
endpoint curves at the
tritium
time,
calc X, Y, and Z,
equals alpha.
X, Y,
Rightmost
Z, or
endpoint of
the
this
integration
curve
of these parts in any
time,
superposition. I'd
T
say I start with
beta.
derivative time, and I
That
get a
happens
gravitational
because
timeline.
you integrate
They're
with
at
respect to T.
astrology levels,
This
or
is
at the
lower
micro
limit of
level
integration
or
of
macro
alpha,
level,
the
down
upper
to
limit of
any
integration of
forces,
beta.
any kind of wobbles and temperature
Plug in
differentials
G
down
of
to the
T,
muon. Look at it glinting at you. Here's the snowflake, right? We're just
Okay,
going to
so
keep
my
X and
example's
Y
gonna be
running
a
here
little bit harder than
about
that
the
one.
scales and
It
numbers
says
Y
what
are
we're gonna do
on,
here is
because
find the
otherwise they
area
wouldn't be
enclosed by
congruent
the
to something
line,
that really
y
happened in
equals
space-time.
2.5, and then this parametric curve that's given
Time,
by
space.
X equals
You know, this
T
is
minus
just the
1 over
right-hand
T,
rule
T
of
is
describing
the
from
little
those vector
funny
positions
sometimes.
from
So T
hydrogen,
minus 1 over T,
or
and then
astrology
Y is
levels
gonna
of
be defined
inverting
to
it.
be
There it's
T
always in
plus
two-phase.
1 over
It
T.
always starts with hydrogen. Well, neutrons and neutrinos,
so
a glint, a muon, a
At
temperature
this point, I'm not
differential.
really sure,
How
what the curve
strongly
looks like
acting on
exactly.
this? Have you been hit by a
But,
neutron?
you
Well,
know,
it
if
might
it's gonna
decay
be-
the
if the curve's gonna
approximation
be-
slightly,
if we're
standing
trying to find
on the
area
Himalayas.
enclosed by the line of the curve,
But also down here on Earth,
I mean, obviously it should be
E0,
intersecting this
E1,
curve
the
or doing
maximum, the zenith under
and
the
it would be
standards,
nice to know when
and
that
under the
happens.
Mariana Trench where light
Well,
doesn't
to figure
pass.
out at
It's like just in
what-
the office.
when exactly
I'll be damned
this,
if I'm not,
this
alright?
parametric
Underwater all the
curve will
damn
hit this
time
line.
about
We
what the
have a
pressure on
formula
the
with
gravity
y
of this thing
coordinates.
winds
Again,
up
we
being.
know that the y coordinate is T
Some
plus 1 over
mathematician
T.
out there doing it like
Well,
this
I would
instead
like
of
to
going
know
out there
when
and
the
graphing
y
it. I'm not saying
coordinate has
specifically
value
him,
2.5.
but there's some timelines on the
That
on
way
the
I'll
model.
know- I'll get a better idea about
T1
what's
to
going
T2,
on
but
with
where
the
are they
graph.
today by the hand? And
So
how
I'll
well,
solve
again, when you
2.5
understand,
equals
how can
T
you claim to be woke
plus 1 over
if I
T.
hit you with what does
And
X
probably the easiest
equal
way to do this is you could just
the square root
multiply
of T
both
mean?
sides by T, so you'll get 2.5
I need a answer. I don't just necessarily need the
T
answer.
squared
Yeah, what it means is
plus
y
1.
is 1 minus
This
t.
is just a
And what
quadratic
that means
equation.
is, so on those scales
T
of it's
squared
moving in
minus
time
2.5
paradox to
T
those values x, the
plus
square root of
1.
t. It says
And
I'm going to
either
put
use
him
the
inside of
quadratic
here and give
formula
him an
or you
angle,
could
turn him
factor
like this
this
on
thing
the
out.
CT paradox, and move him
I
keyhole
believe the
through
same
the
factors
object
in
like
the
this.
following manner.
Well,
And I
Penn's
think you can
rose
even
gives
guess
you an
that this is
advantage
one
on what
number
that
at the very
does. It
beginning
says,
where
well,
it's noticed
instead
if you
of
plug 2 in,
changing some
you'll get 2
arbitrary
plus
geometry, I
1/2.
would just go to the degree on what that
2
is,
is
which
the
is 0. I don't
solution to
know
this
what the
equation.
temperature
It's the
index of
solution to our quadratic
high
equation.
spikes or low spikes, heart
positive
rates
2
on
is
the
the
system
solution.
to saying
That
moving
means
in
that
that
T
direction
minus
being
2
an
is gonna be a
arbitrary x
factor.
equals the square
Well,
root of t,
-2 times what
to any
gives
other
us
standard
positive
starting
1.
from their
How
right-hand
about
rule,
-1/2?
and doing that
And if you
landscaper's
multiply
map,
this
this
out, you
area,
check that we
that
do get,
curve. A curve is part of an area,
minus
and it becomes more
2.5 plus
comprehensive.
1/2.
Like looking in that black hole
Says
over
our
there,
solutions
looking
to
at
this
that
are gonna
fire
be
and
T
that
equals
fusion
2,
over there, and kind of looking at the
T
fire
equals
again, and
1/2.
why I got a fire during the day.
Okay,
Well,
so these
boil
are
water,
gonna be
obviously.
important little
Maybe that would
values.
graph inside of here as
T
some
equals
plane
1/2.
index that has an
Those are the
Ingling's value
times
by a
at
different
which
standard
my
inside here. But
parametric
obviously
curve
x
is gonna
equals
hit
t
this
minus
line,
1 over
2.5.
t, so why couldn't it be Ingling's value jumping inside here when
Alright, so I know
Ingling
the
has
times,
CT
but again,
paradox
I
to the
don't really
face on
know,
M1 and M2? Why?
you know, where it does that at. But,
Now,
well, let's
height,
figure it
weight,
out. So we
system
can
make a
even,
two of
plot
us,
points.
right? Now there's
Here's
two of
T,
us on the board, and we both believe the
here's
sky is
X,
blue,
here's
the grass
Y.
is green,
We already know if we
and
use
the day lasts
1/2
roughly
T
24
equals
hours
2,
a
we know
day,
that the y
given the
coordinate is
approximation. We make the
2.5,
squishy zone work.
and 2.5,
0,
that's what we
1.
just figured out.
Hydrogen,
There's
118
no
on the
guarantee that
periodic
if G
table.
equals 1/2, that's going to be the left
Right, every nut
the
and
curve
bolt
might be
inside of
moving to
the
the
inventory
left
for a
as,
parts store
T
for an
increases.
ASE certification
But I
of
think you can convince yourself
multi-matrixing
that
mechanics,
that doesn't have to be.
of
So
economics,
it says
and
when
standards
T is
of what could value any other
X
differential
equals,
if it's
well,
come from a
1/2
different
minus
paradox. Like
1
somebody said,
over
well, that
1/2.
wasn't an inventory under
Well,
those
that's
standards for
1/2
psychology, and
minus
the way
2,
to test that, well, yeah,
or
you do
negative
you do
3/2.
inventory as a Hutter's
So
prize,
it's gonna be
condensing
negative
100 megabytes down to
1.5,
10
comma,
megabytes,
2.5.
down to 4 megabytes,
So
down to
we'll
8,
go over here to
which is
negative
when you get 8
1.5.
inside of there, it's definitely
So
8
here's the point on the graph,
r nu
negative
mu
1.5,
1/2
2.5,
g
and again, this
nu
occurs at the
mu
time value t
8
equals 1/2.
pi, a few other
And the
things
other
in
thing
this,
I
but
need
you
to
could
know
just
is
go
what the other
IH
x
derivatives,
value. So we
wave
plug in t
function,
equals 2, we'll simply get
t, let's call it derivative x underneath. Sure, why not?
2 minus 1/2,
IH
which is positive 3/2.
over what would be derivative
Okay, so I
wave
know when I
function, and then you
look
can
at
put this
1.5
axis
or
anywheres in there to give you
3/2.
what t is
Again, my
in real
parametric
world. It was
curve
like it was a
is
wave function of
intersecting this
IH,
line.
the smallest irrational value that I could put to a number n.
3/2.
Right, and that
And
number
that's not
n
all
was
I've
me
got at
cranking
this
rock on the tread line, or cutting grass,
Okay, so
or putting in a wall, a
I
hardstone
would
scape
like
to
to
figure
know
out,
if the
oh, well,
curve is above
instead
or
of, you know, how
below.
much is it going to charge me to
Well, the
install
way I
my
can
new
do that,
house,
I know that
or
it
a
goes
new
from
drywall, a
4.5
piece of, you know, I
seconds
punched a
to
hole in the wall,
1.5
whatever,
seconds.
$1
That's
million.
where it is again.
You know what, $1 billion,
We'll just plug in
actually.
the
You know,
value,
we want to be
say
sure we hit
t
the
equals
number
1.
inside here.
Notice if we plug
It wouldn't
t
make sense,
equals
would it? I
1,
mean,
it says
common
that our y
reciprocals
value
of
is gonna be
carpenters
1
on
plus
systems
1
aren't a
over
union,
1.
they're just a
Our
math that
y
says these
value
are the
will be
security
2.
defense stocks
So
on
between
making
1/2
sure
of a
that you stay
second
within the
and 3/2
operator of
of a
that.
second,
And if you can't do that,
y
you
is
Fermi
actually
it
down
with
here
spin
too.
direction.
So hey, that tells me the curve
Spin
must be
momentum
straight
direction
under
inside here,
here.
say
It can't
gravity
cross
on the
again
X
because we
line
would
here,
have found
huh?
another
When this
t
bounce backs
value,
up inside here, and it's supposed to
where it
be.
intersects the curve.
What do you mean it's supposed to be? Day-night cycle. I'm
Alright,
going to
nice.
lose
So
some
now I've got a
product
little
line here if I
picture,
see it on the
and that helps
paperwork
me
and
figure
nobody
things
even
out a
showed
little
up
bit
that
better.
night. I'd be real fucking concerned about the
Alright,
area
and
of my
here,
mathematician.
You've almost got everything you need. A lot of times, what I think about
You don't
is,
have a
know,
mathematician?
to
Go
set
figure
this
all
up,
that shit's
how would
on
I
your
set it
board.
up if it
And it's
was,
easy.
you know,
It's like, that's the
this
real
is my
tread line. It's
function,
got
y
limits. It
equals
would be
f of
those
x.
speed lines on the human
It's not,
aspect
you
of
know,
X and
wrong
Y.
as our
If it
parametric
was
curve,
just
even if I was gonna
neutrinos and
find
everything
this,
else, then beepity
I would
fucking beep.
integrate,
This would
okay,
be
I'll
the
use
arbiter
the
by that
limits
standard, the
integration,
integration of what
-1.5
was
to
close to this
1.5.
to
Don't
do
worry
the
about
output
that
on
for
that
a
before you
moment.
take all the parts
Basically, I
away
would
and
take the top
thermodynamics
curve,
and Maxwell's
2.5,
demon inside of here
minus
playing
the
G,
bottom curve,
and
f
G
of
playing
x, and I'm
Maxwell's
gonna
demon
equate
on
this
the
y
0, 1, 1, 0, up,
dx,
down, what's
and now
up,
we
up, up,
convert
down,
all
down,
of
up,
that
and down, down.
into our new notation with our parametric
Up,
curves.
up. It's in the back position. The bunny here,
So it says when
optically.
we go to do
It's
this,
moving
it
this
says
way.
the lower limit of
I
integration
have a high
is
probability
our
hitting it from
smaller
here because
time.
it's moving at a
Our
constant
smaller
speed. But if
time
it bar
occurs at t equals 1/2.
that's blood pressure
Our
right there.
larger
Create a lot of
time
gravity
occurs
over
at t
derivative, over
equals
derivative x or
3/2.
derivative t, derivative, which form a lot of
says we
different
take
equations, which are
2.5
people's
minus
maps
y.
of trying to describe it. Gresham's law.
Y
Like,
in this
remember how I
case
caught
is
Leonard with that? We got a
t plus 1 over
fucking
t.
usurper on the farm here from back in the day, coming up from the dead, and he'd be put down. No, he's still alive, obviously, and he's
So
good at
there's
what
our
he does.
2.5
But I would
minus
say, what are you
y.
doing
It says
inside
we
here?
have to
Give me one
multiply by
house, one
dx.
limit for
But
you,
I'm gonna
because you want to do
rewrite
0
the
inside here,
1
so it
over
has
t
to hit
to
hydrogen.
the
It's not a
negative
choice.
first power.
This better be
Notice if you
Schrodinger's wave
calculate the
function. You
derivative
better be
of
able to
that,
slide this into
we
N
get
orders,
1
P orders, S orders, or
minus
anything else by
negative
this
t,
graph.
which will give us
It
1 plus
descends
t
on a
to the
Feynman
negative
diagram of being
or
a neutron
equivalently,
all the way
we can write
stretched
that
out on the
as
spectrum of
t
how this works. And you're going to find out in
we can write
section
that
this
as
plays
1
out by
plus
standards
1
of
over
having spectrums
t
of those
squared.
trajectories using those
And now
machineries to
we'll
drop the
integrate that
temperature to
with
figure out the
respect
muon
to
on the feeds
t.
and speeds for what it does to really determine
so
what its
now
decay
this
state will
is
be or when it will
basically the
decay
setup
into another
of our
state
interval
given
that
those
we have to
environments and
calculate.
densities way beyond this. We're
maybe I'll
talking from the
simplify this down a
Einstein
little
cross
bit.
down to the
I
photosphere
really,
inside
think
here of
for most
today's
people
new
at this point,
technology and
if
making
you-
sure you
if
adjust
you're-
into this to zero it out.
Probably not the worst integration in the world. At least I hope not.
Now look,
So let me give myself a little more
this is not just for
space.
this guy. I don't mean
think
beat
I'm
up
gonna
on
run
him,
out
but
of
I'd
time
love
before
to
I'm
see
actually able to
just
integrate
once,
it all.
besides my
I'll
own
just
damn
point out a
paperwork.
couple things here.
You know, when you go out to try to
You know,
explain to why this is
to
important to
integrate this,
somebody
what I
on
would
this
do
x-axis
basically
right
is
here,
just,
because I got a number,
down a little
and I'm
bit,
trying to
so
figure out what the
1/2,
derivatives of that
3/2,
number are. I'm trying to break it down to the pie chart to wind up saying, well, it has to be
minus
people and
t.
human
I would
infallibility.
rewrite the 1/2
Planck's
T is
constant
T to
say
the
anything
negative
we
first,
interject in here
distribute
creates our
negative
own
T to the
chaos, so
negative
we better know
first.
what we call it, because calling the problem is
Then I
xt
would write
minus
the other part as
t1,
1
equally
plus
like
T to the
defining a statement to
negative
be a
second
thing. It has trajectories on
dt.
timelines of will it
And now I
continue to
would
be
just
those
start
things? Is it
multiplying all
congruent
this
in the
out,
pipes to
collecting
Bernoulli's
like
house here?
terms,
Because
and
it's a
going
box.
from
That
there.
area can be
So
scaled.
hopefully
One
this is
stone
enough
Buddha
to get you
monument
going.
to your
This
house.
is
A
now the
blueprinter's
interval
map.
we would
Even
have to
if your house is
calculate.
already made.
Feel free to send me an email
Try.
or shoot me a message if you have major gobs of trouble integrating that. I'll try to sort it out.